maybe just circling back now to think about other options, because this heparin shortage has made us think about what else can we do? Can we use rivaroxaban in this location and this indication? As you know, other drug shortages that existed, we've talked about porcine mucosa and heparin. So, in the 2000s, unfortunately, mad cow disease led to the sort of, especially heparin, bovine heparin being withdrawn from the market. And now there were other sporadic reports of adverse effects. And so since now we have advanced methods maybe of procuring these heparins from other animals, do you see that making a comeback? I don't know if it would, but I don't know what your thoughts are there.
So there's two options, bovine and ovine. So we have all the animals covered. We have beef and sheep.
Yeah.
When you look at the bovine, it was withdrawn. It's still produced, but not necessarily or under kind of necessarily approval, certainly not in the United States. But when you look in terms of the production, there is kind of more of a heightened awareness related to the shortage of porcine heparin. If you look in terms of production or preparation, when you compare them, they're not interchangeable. So the heparin, pork heparin, is not the same as beef heparin. And so in terms of the dosing, maybe a little bit different. So what they were trying to do is kind of more standardize the dosing, because there certainly was, you can't just wholesale change and try and figure out the units, and they may not be the same, and then that led to bleeds. So some countries that were using it stopped using it. The country that is probably more close to getting an approval is more like Argentina, India, Brazil maybe. So there are some countries that are looking at potentially using bovine heparin. And again, that has to do with them refining a monograph that makes it more standardized so that people can expect to get, like if you worked in the cath lab, you give a dose, you get a response. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where they're at with that. But certainly probably that's not anywhere near approval anytime soon in the United States.
And so I guess kind of to wrap things up as we sort of get to the end of our really insightful discussion is, do you see more work being done on our end on the dependence of other countries for these medications? Because obviously one might wonder, why can't we do more either with animals? I understand the limitations of that, or synthetic productions, or what, are there other things going on to help us with some of these things?
Well, I think, well, there is in terms of looking at, for instance, there's kind of some development of sheep and low molecular weight heparin sheep production from mucosa, but again, nothing anywhere soon in the United States. I think the cost of manufacturing in the U.S. has driven manufacturers to use external. But what's happening, I think, is more of, I think the manufacturers are realizing to place all of their products in one country, whether it's Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico or the sheep outbreak of disease in China. I think there's more of a need for balance. So I think you're seeing manufacturers look to multi-source their products. And in fact, even the FDA, once the FDA gets into the response of a drug shortage, they do encourage companies to look to production outside. So not all, porcine heparin is produced in China. So what the FDA's response can be is to help ramp up production in some of the manufacturing plants that are external to China. So I think that's kind of one of the responses that can occur, but it's not, I don't foresee that they're going to move back into the United States for production of this particular product, perhaps other products, but not when you're looking at a large production of animal and animal mucosa, because it's very expensive to raise farm animals in the United States.
Yeah, thanks. Really, really, really a good point. And thank you for, as I said, a really insightful discussion. And thank you to our audience for watching this presentation on the implications of potential heparin shortage and other available alternatives. We hope you found this Peers and Perspectives discussion to be useful and informative.